good afternoon, and I would like to thank the organizer to give me the honor to share this very interesting session. Already a lot of things have been said. So the objective is to discuss a business model to promote sustainable tourism while being profitable. Sustainable tourism is offers to travelers touristic experience addressing climate change, eliminating pollution, limiting the use of natural resources, respecting human rights, fostering resilient infrastructure, reducing food waste, facilitating a shift to healthy food, ensuring animal welfare. So it's a very big program, so it's going to be costly. And so is it going to be profitable? So the question is one solution is degrowth, and there are people saying that. So I would like to listen to you about that. Are we ready for a sober tourism? So to answer, how can we invent a sustainable and profitable tourism? So we have a wonderful panel of distinguished representatives of institutions, investors, and operators to address this issue. I would like to tell them that the session is short, so go directly to the point that you want to make. So first, maybe I would like to ask Nejc Jus, who are you're head of research at the World Travel and Tourism Council, responsible for shaping, leading, and implementing the WTTC's research agenda. Could you give us a broad view of where tourism is going and how is it performing?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Nice being here in NIMS, and thanks for the invitation. So like basically before COVID-19, our sector was outpacing global economy for 9 consecutive years. So of course, like then COVID came and huge losses were witnessed across different industries of the sector. Just to give you a few figures here, in 2019, travel and tourism was responsible for 10.3% of global GDP. So 10% of global wealth was created by our sector. Then in 2020, more than half of that value was wiped off. And 2021 saw the beginning of recovery for the sector with 22% year-on-year increase. However, it is still significantly below 2019 levels. When we look at jobs, travel and tourism total employment, our sector was supporting 1 in 10 jobs on the planet in 2019. Then in 2020, 62 million job losses were witnessed across the entire travel and tourism ecosystem, with SMEs, women, youth minorities being particularly affected. And this, of course, shows the significant importance, social importance of our sector and the need to rebuild and bring these jobs back. 2021 saw just more than 18 million jobs being recovered by the sector. We also produce forecasts for the next 10 years, and forecasts look positive. So we expect 126 million new jobs to be created by 2032, and travel and tourism contribution to GDP, which includes domestic spending, international spending, domestic supply chain, international supply chain is all in these figures. We expect travel and tourism GDP growth to sort of grow at around 5.8% on average every year over the next decade, which is double the overall expected economy growth rate. However, we need to ensure that we need to move beyond economic impact and ensure that this recovery is inclusive, sustainable, and resilient. a few things we're also looking at are consumer trends. And these consumer trends are, of course, shaping what organizations, businesses, DMOs have to do and respond to these trends. So like a few interesting trends here. Length of stay has increased from 12 days in 2019, that's for international trips, to 15 days this year. Of course, it has implications for all different businesses. Then we have the rise of digital nomads, leisure, which has been mentioned already, consumers demanding sustainable products and services. And this all will have, of course, impact on the business models that will have to be produced and implemented across all different industries.
Okay, thank you, Nejc. So, Henry Briance, you are Senior Managing Director at Certares, which is an investment fund, focus on the global travel and tourism sector. As Nejc just said, the forecast for tourism are quite good. I guess you are going to keep investing. But are you still investing for dumb tourism, tourists basking on the sun and on the beach full of people? What are your prospects?
So yeah, first, yes, we are still investing. We see the long-term growth of the travel industry. We felt during COVID that demand would come back. We feel good that has. Sorry about that. We
take it easier.
So we see some of the trends that have been mentioned this morning of, in addition to the traditional sun and beach, there are segments of the traveler population that are looking for alternatives, moving slightly off the beaten track. And these are trends that pre-existed COVID, but have been accelerated by it. So preferences for small group or customized individual travel, preferences for nature and space, more outdoor. And so we see opportunities for the industry to continue offering more and more of that product, which resonates with the customers. But in addition, I think the sun and beach category will continue. There are lots of people who live in parts of the world where they value getting away somewhere warmer, and I think the industry will continue to provide that.
But, is it a niche market, or I mean numbers? Can you put numbers on that? I mean, compared to the global numbers that Nejc just has given.
I wouldn't characterize it as niche. I think the areas that I talked about in terms of sustainability are certainly growing the fastest in the industry, probably off a smaller base than traditional. There are people on the panel here who are almost certainly better qualified than me to speak to the numbers. So I don't want to give you a guess, but it's a real trend. It's growing year on year, and we don't see any deceleration of that.
So I think that Zina can tell us more on that. So Zina Bencheikh you are the managing director EMEA of Intrepid travel. The travel industry largest big corporation. So there is clearly a demand for sustainable demand. I can't imagine myself spending all my vacation counting all the CO2 emission I'm going to produce, while making sure that every meal I will order will be made of good product, made by local producer. So I'm not omniscient. So how can I be sure that I will buy a sustainable touristic trip from Intrepid travel?
Well, I guess sustainable travel or responsible travel was part of our DNA. When we were created 33 years ago, the form of travel that we decided to create was a form that didn't exist. It was between backpacking and between big bus tours, and it was organized small group adventures that were meant to be immersive, meant to get travelers under the skin of the destination, stay with local, eat local, stay in locally owned places, walk, cycle, and take the train, for example. So all of these things actually make travel more responsible and more sustainable, and that's how we were created, to start with. It became a trend, it became much more popular, and to Henry's point, it is still a niche, but the fastest growing niche in the travel industry. We are the largest adventure travel operator, and we have, in the 4 years leading to the pandemic, had a double-digit growth, incredible growth, top line and bottom line, and we believe it's because our style of travel has become more and more interesting for people, and I'd say for two reasons. One is people want more experiences out of their travel. They want more genuine experiences. They want to leave, discover the destination in a more immersive way, and also because people want to purchase from sustainable companies across all industries, and we benefit from these two things. And to answer your question, we always thought we were doing the right thing as a business, but we never had a way to prove it. So back in 2018, we got certified as a B Corp, which is a certification that's independently provided after an audit, a very thorough audit, that enable us to kind of prove in a way that we're doing what we're saying we're doing. So we've been carbon neutral since 2010, and we started this process in 2005. So that was at a time where it was not very a popular thing. And since then, we have committed to science-based targets, which we have had verified by the Science-Based Target Initiative in 2020. So we really committed. It's part of our DNA. It's what we offer. And we've got that certification to kind of give consumer peace of mind that if they book a tour with us, they know they're doing the right thing.
Is your own a certification?
Sorry?
Is it your own certificate?
No, absolutely not. No,
okay.
no. It's
so
independent. It's completely separate. It's companies like Patagonia are B Corp, or in France, Evanios is a B Corp. It's a newest one, and it's a great company, by the way. So they're more and more, it's a movement that's growing. There are more and more famous companies that are getting into it, and it's a certification for businesses that just want to prove that their operations and what they're doing is benefiting not just their shareholders, but all the stakeholders, the environment, the supply chain, the customers, and their own people.
And people are looking to certificate to the level
more and more, and it's interesting because I met one of the delegates today, who's a French lady who her work is to help businesses to get B Corp certification here in France, in rural areas around Mont Blanc. I was really surprised to hear this because maybe 4 or 5 years no one heard about this certification here in France, but it's becoming more and more popular. I lived in the UK until very recently. It's now in a lot of ads, a lot of businesses on their shop. Businesses are really showing this certification because they realize that customers need peace of mind when making their purchase. They don't want to be bothered about measurement, carbon. They want to know that they're doing the right thing, but they don't want to really think about how they're going to do it. So that's very, very easy way for customer to make a decision that's kind of sustainable without having to think too much about it.
Yeah, maybe Philipp Niederberger will tell how they are proceeding in Switzerland. You are the managing director of the Swiss Tourism Federation. Well, the popular imagery is that Switzerland is perfect in all dimensions. I mean, clean, efficient, quiet. So, why are you? What are you doing with sustainability? What is the challenge in your country?
Also, from my side, good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for the question about Switzerland. So it's true. We have in Switzerland we have very great nature. We have all the landscapes, but also we need to work on sustainable tourism. We need to prove that we are sustainable, and we need to help our companies to become more and more sustainable. Because we also realize that there is a shift on demand. Our travelers, they are looking for sustainable hospitality. They are looking for sustainable services. But what we actually realized is that they need help. So our service providers, they need help. So that's our work from the federation. So what we first need is a tourism base, which is intrinsically motivated to become more sustainable. Secondly, there is also some political guidelines that we have in Switzerland that they are working more sustainable. And at the end, and this is our job, so we provide them with tools how they can become more sustainable. And we launched last year our program, which is called Sustainable. We have now already around 1,300 participants in this program. And to go back to your first question, I think the main reason why we shift towards sustainability is also that tourism can make a huge impact to achieve the Agenda 2030, and we should work on that.
Okay, Jeremy Smith. So you are the co-founder of Tourism Declares a Climate Emergency. You are also the climate advisor for the Travel Foundation, and you are on the advisory board of Travelist. So you are a real expert on tourism and sustainability. So, well, Philipp did not explain, but I mean, it was underlying that there is a need for cooperation, and maybe we will discuss. At the end of last year, World for Travel Forum, an association gave to the participant paper letters and envelope intended to raise the cause of mistreated elephants. I contacted one of these elephants, and he told me that it is still used for bike riding, but now he's part of an educational discovery program organized by different operators. He whispered to my ear, this cooperation among those guys is just greenwashing. What are you going to reply to this elephant?
First of all, it's incredible to meet a speaking elephant. I will be the first. So I'm going to hang out for quite a while and see what else he's got to tell me. And after that, I get asked a lot to sort of say how I think things are going. And it tends to be, it's sort of, well, it depends what day it is, to be honest. And I have happy days, optimistic days, and bleak days. And, you know, you can't spend your life working on tourism and climate, or particularly working on climate, and not have bleak days. But before I talk a little bit about that, more importantly is, yeah, you want to know about the, you know, what I see in cooperation. And I see that there are moves like there haven't been before, positive moves towards genuine cooperation, not just gestural cooperation. That whether, you know, I use some examples that are my own, but I'm not trying to use them to sort of, you know, from any ego perspective. I'm just, well, they're the ones I know. Tourism Declares, we launched 3 years ago. Intrepid was a founder signature and has been absolutely vital in that growth. Grew with no money through COVID to 450 committed signatures, committed companies, destinations around the world. Unfunded, it then grew into what we launched at COP26, so almost a year ago now, which was the Glasgow Declaration on Climate Action in Tourism, that saw the likes of Accor, who I was on stage with just a few minutes ago, Skyscanner, Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, has now been joined by the likes of Expedia, Booking.com, the Global Business Travel Association, London and Partners, Gothenburg, Bilbao, Tourism for Netherlands, Norway, the Bahamas, Kiribati. We go on. Over 700 signatures, 700 companies, organizations, destinations at all sizes, all making a commitment with 3 essential parts to it. One, that they will, within 12 months, publish a plan for how they will respond or start to respond to the climate emergency, a climate action plan. Publish and share. And that in itself builds, because if you have 700 shared plans, far from perfect, but you have 700 pieces of idea, 700 collaborations happening at a company level or a destination level that share ideas that people can then build on and improve and move forward. Secondly, that we need to base these plans not in communications, not in marketing, but in science, in the understanding of our impacts on the planet as a business, as a destination, of understanding that, yeah, as Nejc says, that, you know, it's brilliant for tourism, this wonderfully networked industry is responsible for 10.3% of GDP. But we get to that figure because we bring in so many different people who are supported indirectly and at an induced level by our industry to truly say we touch the lives of the cleaner and the person making the food and the taxi driver and all these things. When we come to measure our climate impacts, we go, oh, they don't count. What we count is the people who, the hotel, the tour operator, the plane, maybe. And then we argue about trying not to include these things. We try to include as little as possible. So if you say, what is the climate impacts, the numbers become far smaller, and no one really has any agreement. And the third piece is the need to collaborate and the commitment to collaborate. And what is essential is that everyone is saying, look, compete on experience, compete on whether you've got fluffier pillows, compete on whether you get to meet a talking elephant or not. These are really good things to compete on and to find the difference in the experience and the holiday I will choose. But if we all compete on net zero and compete on climate, then there have to be losers. And you know, you can't have net zero Finland but nowhere near close Sweden or wherever else. We all have to get there together. We have to collaborate. And we're all scratching our heads and going, oh my God, what do I do? I don't know the answer. I mean, I'm no, you kindly called me an expert. I'm a writer who found himself ending up in this world. I certainly don't have a climatology degree or anything like that. But because we don't know what we're doing, and because it's terrifying that we actually have to do so much and so quickly, it creates a really good space for collaboration, because people go, I don't know, do you know? Do you know? I've got an idea, this worked, this didn't work. And I'm seeing so many great examples, I'll pause now, of people sharing and opening their plans and saying, this is what we're doing, how can I help you, how can you help me?
Well, there are two issues, that there are cooperation on the value chain. I can understand that. The question is when going back to my example for the elephant, is when there is horizontal cooperation. That is to say, are we sure that we really implement the sustainable? Are we sure that the welfare of this elephant has really changed? Okay, that's the question I was asking. And the problem is, if you go to this type of cooperation, or horizontal cooperation, then what is the size? Where are you going to stop the cooperation between? It means that do we need to have a bigger firm on the market to keep the structure? What is going to be the good structural organization of tourism to sustain to promote sustainable tourism? That's my question. That's. Are you going to have big firms or small firms? If you mean cooperation, what does it mean in terms of the change in the structure of your organization? No answer?
Yeah, I just talked for a long time, so I was letting someone else have a go. I would hope and imagine we're going to have big firms and we're going to have small firms. Just as we're going to have beaches and we're going to have mountains. We're going to have the diversity that makes tourism what it is. And what you see is that there comes, the big firms have scale, have capacity, have legal responsibility, and all these things mean that there is huge potential to bring things out of them to work on the really tricky stuff around climate action, to really understand and come together with some agreement around to throw the dreaded jargon in around what's scope 3, what our shared value chain emissions are, and spend some time and some money cracking that on behalf of the whole industry. Meanwhile, you have, Intrepid is quite a sizable company now, but it certainly didn't start as a large company. It started with, 2 guys in a van, didn't it, basically? And it started and grew as it did. There are loads and loads of small, wonderful, purpose-led companies out there, some of which are B Corps, others are, social enterprises, whatever they might be, that are showing really inspiring ways that we can do things. That should be a two-directional way of reverse mentoring or whatever you want to call it. We can learn from the small guys, we can learn from the big.
Okay, so there are demand for sustainable tourism. There are clearly now a supply of sustainable tourism. There are different type of program. There are virtuous cooperation, as you say. Fine. So, but there is no change in terms of price. Is it the same price? Well, what I have seen during the summer is a lot of people traveling, going to airports, using low-cost airline and choosing cheap destination. So you said that people are going to more sophisticated tourism, but I mean there is a price to a higher price. So how do you deal with that?
So I'd pick up a couple of things that were said in presentation this morning. The Roland-Berger research suggested there is some willingness from the overwhelming majority of people to pay some premium for sustainability. Not everyone and not 100%, but
when I see what happened in France when we increase the price of fuel, I'm not sure that they are ready to pay. We got a lot of riots, so willingness to pay express. Of course, everybody would like a very nice world, but who is going to pay?
So just to give a concrete example.
I mean, to be concrete, are you ready to decrease your expectation in terms of reward of your investment?
I don't think that there's a choice between sustainability and profitability per se, or at least I hope that there isn't, because I think both are possible. But one small example from our portfolio, we invested in Hertz over the summer. They made a large commitment to electrification of their fleet, which was a good sustainability decision and a good business decision, and people have shown willingness to pay a premium to rent electric vehicles. It's an example and maybe a specific one, but I think the expressed willingness to pay, as was said by both Roland-Berger and Google this morning, is maybe tentative, and it's not 100% of the time and not pervasive. But one of the suggestions as presented by Google was make sure we create the option for people to buy sustainably, to make more sustainable choices, to induce some positive momentum, positive dynamic. Because I don't think there has to be a straight dilemma of either be profitable or be sustainable, or say sustainable travel is a niche within the industry and it's its own category. There's sustainable and non-sustainable, because I think what I see, in echoing what Jeremy was talking about, of across the industry, everyone is doing more now than they were a couple of years ago. I think that there's a positive momentum of both customer demand, regulatory and cost factors that are pushing in that direction.
So, I mean, I can say, so we are going to have an incredible growth of tourism, and we are going to still have a sustainable tourism. So how can we make mass sustainable tourism?
Sure. So I do want to emphasize the sustainability and growth go hand in hand. And sustainability is defined as economic, social, and environmental. So if you don't have any tourists in the area, there is no positive social impact in a destination level. So that's unsustainable. So there has to be a balance. They all have to go hand in hand. Just to give you some examples, so shares of like national park fees in Africa, for example, Mount Kilimanjaro, 28% goes for poverty reduction initiatives. That's significant. And when there is community-led partnerships together, between public and private partnerships, those poverty reduction initiatives really can make a difference at the community level. This empowers local communities to preserve the environment, to make positive impact on nature. We just released Nature Positive report with Animondial, which looks at some of these issues, the importance of biodiversity, and it all makes business sense as well.
Zina?
I totally agree, couldn't agree more. So I won't comment on that because this is really spot on. What I wanted to say to answer your question is, first of all, just give this example of our business. Majority of our customers don't book our trips because they're sustainable. They book them because they're good value for money. That's the reality. Often they come back because they find them very sustainable and they love the experience. So that's really what fueled our growth. It's the fact that we have good value for money packages that offer great experiences. We often have this misconception that sustainability means expensive. In travel, example of a sustainable experience, go try to eat in a mainstream restaurant, touristic restaurants, and go with the local guide to a very hidden local food track somewhere. You'll see the second option will be less expensive. So most of the time, the experiences or the sustainable experiences that are positive for the local communities, often they have lower carbon footprint due to food miles being lower and all of that. They're actually cheaper. And often, sometimes even they're close to, they don't cost much, or they don't cost anything. So just wanted to clarify and give this example.
Okay, but we also heard about the increase of the price of fuel, of transport costs right now, but maybe that will change. So at the end of the day, the travel cost and the cost of the different service of tourism is going to increase. So how would you reply to that?
It's a very different topic to sustainability. It's a topic, an economic crisis or social, due to what's happening.
If we impose a carbon tax on all.
You're referring to that.
Okay, so okay, that's the question. I mean, right now, are we really the tourism services that we are producing and the product are reflecting the real cost of the CO2 emission? That's the question.
Time will say. For now, concretely, we're not seeing the impact of the cost of living crisis on the travel purchase. We are delivering more product than we never did, more than 2019. So time will say. We don't believe that the cost of living crisis in general will have an impact on our type of business, at least, because, as I said, they offer good value for money, which actually are quite interesting in this type of environment. We are looking as a business at our carbon neutrality, and we are actually questioning ourselves if we want to be investing more in carbon neutrality. As we are decarbonizing our business, it might actually start to cost us less to push the decarbonization plans further, and it's something that we are discussing internally, because to your point, carbon credits are more expensive than they were, and we know it will potentially impact in the longer term the price of our product, but that's not something we have made a decision on right now, and we don't see any sign from customers that they will travel less or they will spend less. And I think some of the studies today are also showing this.
Okay. So we are arriving at the end of this session. Do you want, one of you wants to add something? Something that you did not say already and you want to raise? Philipp, Henry?
I just very quickly say that surely if the carbon price is included, it's unsustainable travel that will become more expensive, not sustainable travel. And half the problem here is that we're not putting the full cost in, and therefore the price is being paid somewhere. It's just not necessarily always being paid by the traveller.
Okay, Philipp?
So for me, what I would like to add also, we are talking a lot about the travelers. It's one part. My federation, we defend the service providers, and there to be sustainable also reflects reducing costs. So if service providers are themselves sustainable, you were talking about prices for energy and all those things. So these providers can also reduce their costs, and we should look at sustainability in a holistic way. So there is a niche travelers for sure, but every company and every traveler can add something for becoming more sustainable.
Just going back to the title of the panel, actually, new business models. And I think new business models will have to emerge because regulation is coming into place. And those companies, destinations, organizations, across all different industries, those who will who will be there ahead of the game will fare the best and will be ahead of the competition as well. And also, of course, like traveling tourism is highly dependent on nature. So if we don't protect nature, there will be like nothing to enjoy in the future. No tourism benefits for everyone. So we have to ensure that everyone sees this potential now to restore nature, care about positive social impact as well.
Thank you very much for this conclusion, Nick. And we can applaud our speakers.